Hello, good people, and welcome to Hillbilly Cat History, Spiritual Quest. And we're back to do Chapter 5 of The Impersonal Life by Joseph Benner. But before we get there, we've got to enter this week, because it's Monday. Let's enter this week the same way that Elvis entered a dojo, through the crucible of a warrior. Hello, Gun. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate seeing you here.
Born in the fire, Evansville flame, hammer in hand, carved out his name. 16 and airborne boots in the dirt, jumping through walls on baptized and hurt. Karate in Japan, fists like steel, champion of honor, deadly and real. Sensei warriors, no room for doubt. You wear the G or you train and come back. Your eyes a crucible, baby, not a showbiz belt. You bleed, you break, you feel a warrior's spell. Elvis hit the map, but he rolls with a roll. Sneer in his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior, forged in Hank's domain. 30 throws, not dances, a fight. Bones to set, boards shattered on sight. Shoot-o elbow, fingertip flame. Every strike a prayer, every KO name. 6 weeks of fire, no cameras, no fame. Just sweat and bruises, no one played tame. Saw came in, fist like a stone, said put him down, break ribs if it's known. It's a crucible, baby, not a velvet crown. You fall, you crawl, but you don't stay down. Elvis hit the map, but he rose with the raw. Steer his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior, forged in Hank's domain. All eyes watched the king that day. Would he crumble or would he stay? But Hank saw it, war in his eyes. Not a quitter, but a fighter who rise. From Hollywood lights to dojo dust, Elvis earned it not on fame but trust. No stunt, no script, just grit and bruise. Black belt truth, not a headline rule. It's a crucible, baby, not a stage or set. You earn every inch, every beat of sweat. Elvis hit the map, but he rolls with a roar. Steer in his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior. They burned through the fire, broke through the fear. The dojo legends and kings stood clear. Crucible of a warrior. Elvis was here.
Thank you all for gathering here at Hillbilly Cat History, where we remember together and listen for the echoes. And today we're going to hear the echoes of another cross from another very special person in the Elvis world. And on screen we can see Elvis with two special ladies. I only know one of them. But Gunn says that she loved the karate episodes and the music. So if you're new to the channel or you missed those karate episodes or you like the song I just played, make sure you head back into the archive and you can find many hours where we talk about Elvis and his love of karate and the people that taught it to him. And Keith says that he thanks me for all the feedback to some of the comments that he's left. Always feel free to leave comments here in the chat and in the replays. I try to look at every single comment and reply. Try to at least get a heart on every one to show that I was able to see it. And if I happen to know the answers, I try to give them. And the answers for this picture are that the woman on the left in the red coat, that's Joe Kathy Brownlee. And then there's Elvis. Most of us know him. And I do not know, or I have not identified the lady with the purple scarf on. Most times when you see this picture on the internet, it's been cropped to just Elvis and Joe Kathy Brownlee. But there's one other really important piece in this photograph, and it's up in the upper right-hand corner, and it's a sign, and it says Memphian Theater. And the theater is written into an arrow pointing to the right of the picture, which I believe is the door into the Memphian Theater. It's somewhere right there. It's at the building of the Memphian Theater. So that's important for the story that we're going to tell today. But Elvis was there. He was watching movies. Now, he met Joe Kathy while he was at a World Football League game in Memphis. So for a while, a very short period, there was a new football league started. It wasn't the American Football League. It wasn't the National Football League. And when I say football, I mean American football. This is with an oblong ball. We looked at football in a previous episode when we told the story about Elvis and his coach when he was in high school, when he was on the football team. So if you missed that episode, you really want to see it. And if you are from the international audience and you're not sure what football is, we go into it in a lot more detail there. But football, Elvis loved football. And when Memphis got its own team, the Grizzlies, he was ecstatic. Now, the real name of the Grizzlies was the Southmen, which is a terrible name. But they nicknamed them the Grizzlies, and that's what everybody knew them as. And Elvis didn't go to very many games. I only know of 2 that he actually went to. And at one of them, he met this lady, Joe Kathy Brownlee, who was working as a waitress or a hostess in the sweet boxes. Elvis borrowed a suite from somebody he knew. So this was in a big stadium in Memphis, and Elvis didn't sit in the seats out in what you would think of as the bleacher area, although it wouldn't have been bleachers. It would have been individual seats in the stadium. He didn't sit in those because, of course, he could have been swamped. But they had private booths, and that's very common today in these stadiums, or private suites. And the suite is like a room, and then at the front of the room, or on the side that faces the field, you can actually go down and sit in some little their seats in order to watch the game or whatever's going on the field. So Elvis is up there. Well, when you're up there in one of these suites, they serve you food and stuff. They have like a full catering thing going on. So I believe there's kitchens up there, and or they order this stuff in somehow. I've been into some of these suites a few times, got to watch a few games, and the food's pretty good, depending on who owns the suite, how much they want to impress you. Now, nobody really wanted to impress me much, but if you had Elvis come into your suite, and he was borrowing like the owner of the team's suite, they really wanted to impress Elvis. And then they had to have people that brought this stuff in, asked if you needed anything, made sure your drinks were full, that kind of thing. That's what Joe Kathy Brownlee was doing. And Elvis noticed her. So Elvis, he was actually with Linda Thompson while they were there. But he still noticed Joe Kathy. And then she ends up here at the Memphian. Now, I'm not going to really tell Joe Kathy's story today because she deserves her own entire devoted episode. There's a lot of information that, as fans, I'm sure you would love to know about Joe Kathy. But what we are going to talk about today is that while they were at the Memphian movie theater, and Joe Kathy describes it as a date, I believe it's probably this picture. Might not have been. But I kind of feel, because the Memphian theater sign is in the picture, like this picture was meant to be with this story. But I can't guarantee this is the same night. But they are at the Memphian Theater. And Elvis was wearing a necklace with a pendant that was a cross. And he took off this necklace and he gave it to Joe Kathy because she was wearing a Star of David necklace. Now, in this picture, we can't see that either of them is wearing a necklace. It might be that we could see Elvis is wearing a necklace. It's really hard to tell. And Joe Kathy is wearing a red coat. And I can't tell what she has under it. It looks like she might be bare under it, like into a deep cut shirt or something, but it's also possible there's something right up to her neck, and because of the way this picture looks, I just can't tell. The other lady has a scarf wrapped around her neck, so it indicates it's kind of cold outside. So I would guess that if this is that night, we're not able to see what Joe Kathy's wearing because it's underneath whatever clothing that she has on. But whether it's this night or a different one, Elvis notices that she's wearing the Star of David necklace, which is a Jewish symbol. And so he takes off this cross and he gives it to her and hangs it around her neck. And he tells her that he didn't want her to miss out on going to heaven on a technicality. Now, I think we've all heard the stories that Elvis would say this line as a humorous reply when people would ask him, why do you wear multiple religious symbols? And he would say something about he didn't want to miss out on heaven through a technicality. And here he's turned that joke around, or possibly this is the origin of the joke. I don't know. This is in 1975. So I'm not sure when Elvis started telling people that joke. I think it was earlier. So I don't think this is the origin. But I don't know that it's not. It's kind of amazing, though, because it's not a joke. In this instance, he's giving this cross in order to save Joe Kathy. He's giving her his faith. Now, this is the cross and the necklace. And you can see that it's gold. Well, it's actually gold-plated. So it's not pure gold. But it is gold-plated with rhinestones. So these are not particularly precious stones. It's not a particularly precious metal. But Elvis was wearing it. Now, Elvis could afford to wear any jewelry. He didn't need to wear what is essentially a piece of costume jewelry. But he still chose this, which tells me that the symbol of the cross, it meant something to him. Because again, he could have worn anything. But he chose this piece. Now we also know, according to Patsy Presley, that when she and Vernon went into Elvis's bedroom and gathered up items that they were afraid might not stay in the bedroom, one of those pieces was a box of jewelry that was all basically costume jewelry, all very inexpensive pieces that were not made from precious metals, pieces that she knew, that Patsy Presley knew, carried a great deal of significance for Elvis because they were given to Elvis by special people who could not afford real pieces of jewelry, perhaps at the time, because when Elvis was poor, the people around him were poor, or because they simply can't afford, even now, to give him that kind of jewelry. But he loves the gifts that are given to him, and they bear a great deal of personal value to him. And I wonder if this particular piece was one of those that he kept in that box. Can't prove that. It's just speculation on my part, but I know he had a box for costume jewelry that was special to him because of who gave it to him. So I think it's possible somebody gave him this. It might have been just an unnamed fan, just like the Bibles that he got. Came to him in the mail. Might have been somebody in his family or somebody he knew. Might have been before he was famous. I don't know when this cross dates from. I doubt it goes back to before he was famous, but who knows? We don't know the origin of the cross. And Gunn says that he may have done the same with his other Jewish friends, like George and the other guys. Like perhaps he gave them crosses, symbols of Christianity, hoping they'd wear them, and it'd maybe bring them, illuminate a path for them. It's possible. I don't know of a cross that he gave to a Jewish friend, but now that you mention it, I've never looked for it. So I'll start trying to notice if I see that. Now, I did give them the watches that had both the Jewish and the cross symbol, and it flipped back and forth. So he did kind of do that in a way. And Colleen, welcome Colleen, thank you so much for coming. And she says she's cooking. I hope you're making enough for all of us. And now let's get a slightly better look at this cross. And we've gotten a lot more up close and personal here. And you can see that it is a beautiful cross. And that the rhinestones really look like precious diamonds and or jewels. They look like diamonds, and in the center, it looks like a blue diamond. Or maybe I don't know, a topaz? I don't know what you would call that. But a translucent sky blue jewel. And they all appear to be faceted. But these wouldn't be particularly precious because these are the same kind of stones that he had sewn onto his jumpsuits and stuff. And this is Joe Kathy Brown Lee, many years later. You can see she's wearing a chain, but it's not this one. And she does have an Elvis sweatshirt on. And she's with another very special person, Lisa Marie. And this picture wasn't taken all that long ago. I think this picture is less than 10 years old. I'm not absolutely certain, but I believe it's less than 10 years old. And that neither of these people is with us anymore. So the memories that are transmitted through this cross are one of the few pieces that are left to us from either person. And Gunn says that was the most beautiful cross she has ever seen. Keith says this is a great picture with Lisa Marie. Lisa looks amazing in this picture. And Joe Cathy has the biggest smile. But Lisa looks like she's looking directly at you out of the picture, and that she knows something, and she's about to tell you. And maybe, although I doubt it, but maybe what she'd be telling us is one of these messages that we're about to hear from this book, The Impersonal Life, Joseph Benner, Chapter 5, The Key, a book that Elvis read many, many, many times. And he bought hundreds of copies. He annotated those copies. And he gave them to his friends so that they could read the messages that he thought would bring them enlightenment. And so this is the key. But just before we start, let's take a look at why this chapter matters. So the purpose of this chapter is to reveal the key that unlocks wisdom, power, and conscious oneness with the divine, I am. So the book has been telling us up to this point to be still and know that I am God. To listen to the voice that is deep in your heart and is your connection to the divine. Hasn't really told us how to do that other than just the directive, stop thinking about other stuff. Or stop letting your materialistic mind get in the way. But those aren't very helpful. They tell you what needs to be done, but they're not really telling us how would you do that. And so perhaps that's what's going to happen here. And there's an invitation to study and reflect until the me is grasped. Then the whole message becomes clear. And the book's told us this over and over, that if it's not clear yet, don't worry, just keep on going. That the more you think about it, eventually it's going to make sense. And when it makes sense, it's all going to make sense at once. And there's a promise that recognizing inner signs will follow sincere contemplation. So this is again the command, be still and know I am God. And there's a quote here, but in order to recognize these signs, all that now follows must be carefully considered and studied, and should not be passed by until my meaning, at least in some degree, is grasped. So let's dive into the text itself, which says, you may not even yet know I am, or believe that I am really you, or that I am likewise your brother and your sister, and that you are all parts of me and one with me. You may not realize that the souls of you and your brother and sister, the only real and imperishable parts of the mortal you, are but different phases of me, an expression in what is called nature. So the chapter starts out by saying, you still don't understand all this, that the book knows that you don't understand all of this yet. And it again repeats the message of unity. All are one with each other in the divine, but it's the soul, and this is the first time it's named the soul, or the I am in you, which is that connection to the divine, and that there are mortal pieces of you which are needed only for survival on this plane of existence, that will burn away at some point in time. They'll be cast aside, and your divine essence will reunite with the one unity, more than just the connection that you have through your heart. But in the meantime, you're all still one. And that all of us are part of the purpose of the divine. And so I think that that would have spoken to Elvis, that he was part of a larger whole. He wasn't in this by himself. And that although he may have questioned his purpose, that there was a purpose. And Gunn says that this is a tough text. It is. But these are exactly the words that Elvis moved through, and that he thought brought wisdom. And in the next passage, likewise, you may not realize that you and your brothers and sisters are phases or attributes of my divine nature, just as your human personality with its mortal body, mind, and intellect is a phase of your human nature. The text again addresses that there are two parts of you. There is this mortal shell, and there is that which is divine and immortal. And that to us, it's not always clear which is which. And that's part of what we're trying to find out by reading the text, so that we can clearly identify one from the other and know that whether we are following the divine will or whether we are following our mortal needs and desires. And it reminds us this is but a phase. This will pass. And the book says, no, you do not realize this yet, but I speak of it now, that you may know the signs when they begin to appear in your consciousness, as they surely will. So the book tells the reader, us or Elvis, this is your first time through this book. You are not realizing what I'm saying to you yet, but it's okay. I'm telling it to you now so that you can begin to grapple with it, so that you can begin to come to an understanding of the truth of the statement, because it's not easy and you don't want to accept it. You believe you are completely an individual, but you are not. You are part of a unity. That when you find your place in the unity, when you are still, and you know that I am God, these things will begin to appear in your own consciousness. The divine will be saying them inside, not just through the text. And you'll recognize the truth. the book goes on and says, but in order to recognize these signs, all that now follows must be carefully considered and studied, and should not be passed by until my meaning, at least in some degree, is grasped. I think the book is telling us here, by the time you get to the end of this chapter, if you don't understand what's happening, if there are paragraphs in here that you have no idea what means whatsoever, then feel free to reread the first 5 chapters. It's okay to go back and read them again before you move on, and to study the text. You don't have to rush through it. There's no timeline on this. Go on back and look at it again and try to get that meaning. Now, we're not going to take that advice on our reading. We're going to continue to push through. And hopefully it's all going to be clear by the end. But the author is telling us he knows the text is difficult. So if you feel it's difficult, well, he already knew that. You're just affirming what he knows. And he's saying, yes, it's true. This is hard. And then he says, once you understand fully the principle I here set down, then all my message will become clear and comprehensible. So the book is saying that the first 5 chapters, they contain the methods that you need to follow. And then these messages, my message, will become clear. I first give you the key that will unlock every mystery that now hides from you the secret of my being. This would have been a very interesting text for Elvis, because he's looking for the secrets. He's searching for something. And the book is now saying, you're on the right path, we're almost there. I'm going to give you the key to the door, and then you'll find the answer to the mystery. And the book says this key, when you once know how to use it, will open the door to all wisdom and all power in heaven and earth. Yea, it will open the door to the kingdom of heaven. And then you have but to enter in, to become consciously one with me. So the book tells us that the door is the entry to the kingdom of heaven, or unity with God, with the divine. And then it gives us the key. It says this key is to think, is to create. Or, as you think in your heart, so it is with you. And then it says, stop and meditate on this, that it may get firmly fixed in your mind. So let's stop and meditate on this. To think is to create. There's another old saying that is, I think, therefore I am. I think that's Descartes, which is another philosophical thing. It's mirrored here. To think, I think, therefore I am. To think is to create. That would have spoken directly to Elvis. He creates. His performances are creations. The clothes he wears, both on and off stage, are creations. He didn't make the clothes, but he puts together the outfits. He comes up with the ideas. He doesn't write the songs, but he makes the songs. He doesn't write the movies, but he creates the performances in the movies that are the draw that people are coming to see. Elvis is a creator and has always been a creator. And so now thinking is creating. But it's also saying that as you think in your heart, so it is with you. This is a way of saying that you make your own destiny, that you have free will, that the ideas that you create in your thinking, as long as they are aligned with your heart, which is the divine will, because the divine will is the God who lives in your heart. When you have aligned your intellect with your heart, what you have created comes true. And so it is with you. This isn't just about the performances of the songs or the performances in front of the camera or on stage. This is about every aspect of life. As you think in your heart, as you align yourself with God, then things are correct. And so it is with you. And Colleen says that she is cooking her stuffings, and she received a letter at her door on Friday that her water will be off from 5:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. for repairs. That's terrible. So prepping is early this year. That's good thinking, Colleen. Hi, Terry. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. So let's take a look at the next slide I have here, which is the unity of I am. Divine oneness. I am is the divine presence in you, your brother, and your sister. All are parts of one. And that's what we've been reading here, is about the unity. And when you think, as you think in your heart, as you align, as you are part of the unity of the divine, so it is with you. Universal expression. We are phases of the one being expressing through nature. Everybody is part of God's divine plan. That's what's being said. Individual souls are different phases of the divine nature. All of us are part of God. These are all what the text is telling us, and I believe that we've seen these same things, slightly different words, but reflected and refracted throughout the book of John as Jesus travels around and he brings everyone into a unity. And then it says, you may not even yet know I am, or believe that I am really you, or that I am likewise your brother and your sister, and that you are all parts of me and one with me. And that's one of the direct lines from the text, reassuring us it's okay if you don't believe this. You can still read the text, and it's still going to have value for you. And on this slide, we see that the soul is the only real and imperishable part of the mortal you. And we've seen the book tell us that. And then it says souls are different phases of the divine. The I am the me in expression through nature. Same thing we just looked at on the last slide. You and your brothers and sisters are phases or attributes of the divine nature. So this is taking that same thought further. It's not just you that are part of God. It's the person next to you and the person next to them. It's your enemies. It's your friends. It's your family. It's those you despise. It's those you love. It's everyone. And that by comparison, personality, body, mind, and intellect, the material, the things that are necessary for survival as a mortal, these are merely phases of human nature, which we know to be true because we know the cycle of birth and death. We know that we are transitory creatures. But what the book is saying is that the transitory part that we know of is only half, and that the other half is eternal, and that it's inside, it's part of us, but it's not linked forever to this body. It's only here for now, because that's the way God wants it for now. And again quotes the book, "You may not realize this yet, but I speak of it now, that you may know the signs when they begin to appear in your consciousness, as they surely will." The book is prepping us with difficult ideas so that when the difficult ideas reappear, it's not the first time we're seeing them. It's not a shock. We've had some time to come to grips with this and decide, I believe this, I don't believe this. And we're going to be on firmer ground when we again see these concepts. And Terry you're in the air, Terry? You're on a plane right now? Oh, he's going over to have dinner with Colleen. Phew. I didn't know we were going to have to take a plane. I thought she was going to FedEx it over. Back to this slide. Well, let's move on to the next slide, actually. We've covered this one. And here's the key. To think is to create. And as you think in your heart, so it is with you. And I think Colleen right now is thinking about creating a great turkey dinner, or at least a great Thanksgiving dinner. There's stuffing, there's got to be turkey, right? So Colleen is thinking, and her thinking is becoming creating. And as Colleen thinks about this turkey in her heart, so it becomes in the oven. But these are the ideas that the book is pushing across to us, which I am interpreting as free will. God has given us each free will so that we have this ability to create. This is our contribution to the Almighty, to the divine. We bring our own creations, whether they be songs or turkeys. And Colleen says she's doing a lot of thinking because there's 2 stuffings, 3 turkeys, and a ham. That sounds like a very beautiful dinner. And Gunn says, doesn't everyone know this word? Which word are you talking about, Gunn? Let me look back. Yeah, let me know and I'll answer. To think is to create. Doesn't everyone know this to already be true? I don't know. I think what you're saying is that the book's saying something that you believe is very obvious. And I'm not going to say that's not true. Obviously. Well, I wouldn't say that thinking is creating, right? I do a lot of thinking, but there's a lot of creation that doesn't happen because I'm too lazy to push forward and make the creation happen. So there's definitely a difference between thinking and doing, but yes, obviously thinking is creating. So I think part of Benner's cleverness is that he states things that are obvious in a way that sounds revolutionary or provocative or illuminating, right? It just sounds, and because of the way he uses the capitals and stuff, so like he capitalizes every word in think and to create. This slide's copying that from the way he wrote it. You know, he uses the presentation of the very words to create this sensationalism, to help it stick into your mind, I think. And Colleen says, some of the guys on my son's construction crew don't have families, so we make enough to bring them all food. That's very nice of you. Very thoughtful. And Colleen says it takes a lot of creativity to do this podcast. Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, this is the part that I'm able to get created. But I have a lot of other creative ideas. And Lorna also believes that it's very lovely that Colleen is making this food so that others can have Thanksgiving. It is extremely heartwarming. And let's look at the next slide. The power of thought. Well, I should have flipped over to this slide before I got all wordy in my answer to Gunn, because this has some more stuff on it about it. And it says, a thinker is a creator. The fundamental principle of consciousness, your thoughts are not passive reflections, but active forces of creation. So this makes me feel good because it makes me feel like just the thinking alone, well, that's getting some work done. Now, I would probably go a bit farther and say you actually got to you got to actually take actions, that the thoughts themselves are not active forces, but this text is pushing a lot of power into thought alone. And I'm sure that also spoke to Elvis because he was in a process of deep thought as he discovered this book. He'd been doing a lot of thinking. And living in a world of conscious creation, each person inhabits a reality shaped by their own thoughts, a world of their own conscious creation. That is a very important statement, because this is absolutely true. We all live in the reality that we shape. Now, there are some times when this is not true, when external forces are affecting your personal world to the extent that they're forcing their way through the reality that you shape. We all know that this can be true. But in our normal lives, especially in the wonderful lives that we're able to live, in the free countries that we live in, where we're able to listen to podcasts like this and explore things like Elvis Presley. You know, in some countries, you couldn't listen to Elvis at different times in history. You weren't allowed. He was outlawed, but we're all able to take advantage in our lives of the freedom to inhabit our own reality that we create through our own thoughts. And this is what I've said before, that we create our own purpose. And the book's going farther to say you create that purpose, but it's a purpose that the divine wants you to have. And if it's in alignment with the divine, it's something you're going to be able to accomplish. And aligning thought with heart, understanding how to think, means harmonizing mind and heart, bringing intention and emotion into alignment. And that's what it says means when it says, as you think in your heart, so it is with you. Your intellect, the materialistic or mortal portion of yourself, aligns with the immortal and divine portion, and then great things are done. And I think this would resonate with Elvis, because I'm sure there are times in his life, times we can point to where he had massive amounts of success, where he may have personally felt that his thoughts, his intellectual thoughts, his desires for whatever this project was supposed to do, aligned with the divine, and then he was able to create. And one of those that we've looked at was the gospel album that he won the Grammy for, How Great Thou Art, that he recorded in 1966 and then broadcast to 276 different radio stations, that they broadcasted out on the same Sunday, Palm Sunday, in 1967. So to me, that was a great creation. And he had thought, after reading this book, about where he wanted to align his thoughts with his heart. And I think this is one of the products that came out of it. Again, I can't prove that. That's purely speculation. But we know that the album exists. We know it was played on the stations. We know that the word was spread. And the book's going to go on, and it's going to talk about true mastery. When you know how to think to align thought with your heart, you can create at will. So the alignment opens up a well, a deep well of inspiration that you can draw on, that will never run dry, and allows you to create. And you're really not limited in anything that you could create, but it gives you some possibilities. It says that you can consciously create a new personality. I think Christians would think of this as being born again. That they were someone in their former life, someone like Saul, and then there's a point where they make a change. Their thoughts become aligned with the divine will, and they have a new personality. In Saul's case, he changed his name to Paul. So there is a change, and it's often referred to as being born again. It says that you can consciously create a new environment. I think this could be something as simple as repainting or wallpapering your room, putting a new carpet in. But it's more about the spiritual environment. But I think the physical does have an effect on that spiritual. So if you live in a messy place, then your mind becomes messy. And that you can use the power of your alignment to clear not only your mind, but the mess from your environment. That if you're in an environment of a lot of people bickering all the time, that your alignment will allow you to change that bickering into something else, or to maybe you will focus it towards something. You'll focus all of their bickering towards an actual goal. Things will become possible. And you'll be able to change whatever it is about this environment that you don't like and that needs to be changed. And then it says, even a new world. And I think this is talking about the relations between one person and another that will then be reflected in relations between groups of people and eventually between nations. And it says that creation begins within. Thoughts shape reality through conscious alignment with the divine will. And so it says the first step to all of this, once aligned, is thought, because that's the first step in all of the creative process. And it's correct about that. And it says, when you once know how to think, you can create at will anything you wish. So maybe there's a deeper implication here that when I say thinking isn't enough, you have to also take action. Maybe the implication here is that if you are aligned with the will, the divine will, when you think, the actions will then be taken. That it's all part of the same continuum, and that the reason your thoughts aren't materializing into creation is that those thoughts are not aligned with the divine will. But that is as far as we're going to delve into this particular chapter today. And we're going to come back and we're going to learn more about this key. The rest of this chapter is going to tell us about how to use the key. And Gunn says, or to create, you have to think. You can say, yes, absolutely. And Terry says that I have never created a will. Terry slips in a dad joke at the very last moment of the broadcast. But I'm going to leave you guys all with a song like I always do. And it's going to be the theme song of this particular series, which is Word on Fire, that talks about Elvis walking through these texts. And until I see you guys all again, hopefully at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, you guys all keep on taking care of business. This is Word on Fire.